Hello dear friends, this is your personal English coach Professor DC, and in this video we will be understanding a chapter written by Max Beerbohm. It is called Going Out for a Walk. Before we begin understanding this chapter, let's get to know the writer a little bit. Sir Henry Maximilian Beerbohm was born on 24th of August 1872 and died on 20th May 1956. He was an English essayist, parodist and caricaturist. You know what is a parody? A parody is a work created to imitate or make fun of the original work. So what is who is a caricaturist? A caricature is a rendered image showing the features of its subject in a simplified or exaggerated way through sketching, pencil strokes, or through other artistic drawing. So Sir Max Beerbohm was a parodist and a caricaturist. He first became known in the 1890s as a humorist. He was the drama critic for the Saturday Review from 1898 until 1910, when he relocated himself to Rapallo, which is in Italy. In his later years, he was popular for his occasional radio broadcasts. Among his best known works is his only novel, Zuleika Dobson, published in 1911. His caricatures, drawn usually in pen or pencil with muted watercolor tinting, are in many public collections. Having understood about the writer, let's understand his chapter, which is called Going Out for a Walk. On my screen, you can see the original chapter, but I have mentioned the meanings of difficult words in the brackets and colored in blue to make it very easier for you to understand. What you can do is, while I am explaining, you can pause my video and write down the meanings as they're written on my screen. So let's focus on the title for a minute. The title says Going Out for a Walk. I'm very sure you as a student must have gone out for a walk just like that with your friends or family. You would have gone out without any destination in your mind. You would have gone out just for the sake of walking. Now the writer in this essay is trying to tell us about his own observation, his own ideas about going out for a walk just like that. So what are his thoughts about going out for a walk? Let's understand. It is a fact that not once in my life have I gone out for a walk. I have been taken out for walks, but that is another matter. So the writer begins by telling us that never in his life has he thought that, okay, let me just stroll a little bit and come back. Never in his life has he gone for a walk without any destination in his mind. It was forced upon him. Maybe his friend or relative asked him to come out for a walk against his wish, but that is a different matter. Even while I trotted, prattling by my nurse's side, I regretted the good old days when I had and wasn't a preambulator. This line is a little bit hilarious. A preambulator is a baby carriage. The writer is trying to tell us that he missed the days when he was put in a baby carriage and people would carry him around, and he used to miss those days because he was no longer an infant but a toddler who had learned walking already. So while he was a toddler, he missed the days when he was an infant, when people carried him around in a baby carriage. When I grew up, it seemed to me that the one advantage of living in London was that nobody ever wanted me to come out for a walk. London's very drawbacks, its endless noise and bustle, its smoky air, squalor ambushed everywhere in it, assured this one immunity. So, the writer Max Beerbohm is trying to tell us the drawbacks of London, which became his advantages. London was full of noise, full of smoky air, full of people dashing into each other, full of crowd and vehicle and people running here and there. And it is for the same reason that never in London people asked him to get up and go out for a walk in the streets of London. So the drawbacks of London were actually an immunity for the writer. Immunity because the writer dislikes the fact of going out for a walk for no reason. Whenever I was with friends in the country, I knew that at any moment, unless rain were actually falling, some man might suddenly say, "Come out for a walk," in that sharp, imperative tone which you would not dream of using in any other connection. So unless there was no rainfall, the writer had friends who would insist him to get out from the comfort zone and start walking. They would say in an insisting tone, "Let's go out for a walk." This used to happen with the writer very often. People seem to think there is something inherently noble and virtuous in the desire to go for a walk. Now, even you can discuss the habit of walking with your friends or family. They would feel positive about this habit. They would feel as if something is good about walking. Walking is good. Walking is positive. When you walk, you have high moral standards. Now, this notion in the minds of the people is inherited because people hear all around, people see other people walking, and so they think that whenever it comes to walking, it is good. Anyone thus desirous feels that he has a right to impose, to be accepted, has a right to impose his will on whomsoever he sees comfortably settled in an armchair reading. As I said, these are just the writer's observations and something that he felt all the time. So whenever a writer was sitting in a nice armchair in his free time reading books, there was some person, one of his friend or relative, who would look at him, relaxed, at ease, and he or she would impose his wish of walking onto the writer. Max Beerbohm had friends and relatives who would see him calm and composed, nice and relaxed in an armchair reading, and they would insist him on walking with them. It is easy to say simply no to an old friend. In the case of mere acquaintance, one wants some excuse. I wish I could, but nothing ever occurs to me except I have some letters to write. So the writer tells us that if a best friend of yours asks you to get out for a walk with him or her, it's easy to say no. You can directly say, "I don't like walking. I will not come out for walking with you. You know I don't like walking, so why are you telling me?" Now this you can tell to your best friend, but someone who is not a best friend, who is a just friend, it may be your neighbor, you cannot bluntly say no, and therefore you have to make excuses, something like, "I wish I could come out with you for a walk, but I have some work which is on my top priority." The writer used to give this excuse, "I have some letters to write." This formula is unsatisfactory in three ways. Which formula? Giving excuse about writing letters. Now for the writer, this excuse was not convincing, was unconvincing in three ways. Number one, people would not believe. It isn't believed. Number two, it compels you to rise from your chair, go to the writing table, and sit improvising a letter to somebody until the walkmonger shall have lumbered out of the room. So whenever the writer was in his own world, relaxed, at ease, sitting in an armchair, and when another person who was not a best friend but a mere acquaintance, was just a friend, when such a person asked the writer to go out for a walk with him, the writer Max Beerbohm would give this excuse, "I have some letters to write." But that was unsatisfactory because the person who is actually a mere acquaintance would not believe you. Secondly, when you give an excuse, it would force you to get up from your chair, go to the writing table and start writing letters. You know it was an excuse, but when you speak out this sentence, it forces you to start writing actually. And finally, the third reason, it won't operate on Sunday morning. There is no post out till this evening. Clinches the matter, and you may as well go quietly. So usually there is no work on Sunday, and if you give this excuse, I have some letters to write, then you will be the loser. You will have to go out for a walk with that person quietly. Walking for walking's sake may be as highly laudable and exemplary a thing as it is held to be by those who practice it. So those who walk, you must have seen people early in the morning getting out from their houses for a walk. And you must have also met people who are into this habit of walking from a long time. So the admirers of walking hold this habit as highly praiseworthy and exemplary thing. My objection to it is that it stops the brain. Now, the writer feels that when you walk, your brain doesn't work fine. It actually stops the brain. When you go out for a walk without any reason, your brain doesn't function really well. Many a man has professed to me that his brain never works so well as when he is swinging along the high road or over hill and dale. So the person who is into this habit of walking, it is also called, or he or she is called a walkmonger. The walkmonger may claim that the brain stops when he or she is walking. And then the next sentence, this boast is not confirmed by my memory of anybody who on a Sunday morning has forced me to partake of his adventure. What is boasting? As it's already written on the screen, talk with excessive pride. Now when somebody is telling you with excessive pride that when I walk my brain stops, Max Beerbohm feels that this is not true. The writer feels that the brain doesn't stop when you walk. So here the meaning of partake I have mentioned is eat or drink, but here in this context it is undertake, to carry out. So on a Sunday morning when somebody asked the writer to walk with him or her, the writer never felt as if his brain is not really working well. The ideas that came so thick and fast to him in any room, where are they now? But still, the writer argues. Inside a room, when the writer was with friends, he had a lot of ideas. The ideas popped up quickly, but when they started walking, those ideas have disappeared. Where that encyclopedic knowledge which he bore so lightly. Now, who is the writer referring to here? The writer is referring to the person who is walking along with the writer. So when they were inside the room, that person had immense knowledge, just like the information written in encyclopedia. The writer questions, where is that knowledge now when they have started walking? Where the kindling fancy that played like summer lightning over any topic that was started? So inside the room when they were not walking, they discussed so many topics one by one, suddenly like lightning that happens in summer. The writer is questioning, where is that rapid fire discussion now when they have started walking? The man's face that was so mobile is set now. Gone is the light from his fine eyes. Means the person who was not walking, who was settled inside the room, he was having a glow on his face. But when he started walking, the glow is gone. His eyes are not sparkling anymore. Now, in the following lines, we see what happens when the writer has already started walking with a person who insisted him to get out for a walk. Some of the observation we already saw. The knowledge is gone, the discussion about different topic has gone, the light from his face has gone, and finally, what is the man speaking to the writer? He says that A is a truly good fellow. 50 yards further on, he adds that A is one of the best fellows he has ever met. So while the writer and another person, we don't know who, has started walking, what happens during the course of this walk? The person starts talking about somebody else and tells the writer that Mr. XYZ is a good person, and later on again he will add Mr. XYZ is one of the best persons that he has ever met. We tramp another furlong or so, and he says Mr. A or Mrs. A is a charming woman. So he starts talking about somebody else and praises him or criticizes him, praises her, criticizes her, constantly talking about people. Furlong, as it's already written, is an eighth of a mile. So in short, it just means when they walked a little further. When they walked a little further, the person who's walking with the writer again talks about the lady who is really charming. Presently, he adds that she is one of the most charming women he has ever known. Now, again, the talk of that lady continues. The person who's walking with the writer talks about that lady again and again, praises her, most charming woman he has ever known. Then they pass an inn. What is an inn? Inn is a place of accommodation where people stay, have food, drink. So while walking, they cross such a place, they cross an inn. He reads rapidly, aloud to me, the King's Arms license to ales and spirit. So what's going on here? Now that person was talking about people. This person is bad, this person is good. Now writer feels this is not a fruitful talk. This is just a waste of time. And then when they are crossing certain apartments like inns and shops, etc., the person has started reading out everything that's written on the shop or that organization. Now here the person is reading out something about the King's Arms, and then I predict that during the rest of the walk he will read aloud any inscription that occurs. So as they are walking along, whichever banners that person is seeing, the writer feels that he will read everything out. The writer has already predicted how his walk will be with that person, and the writer is not really happy about it. We pass a milestone. He points at it with his stick and says, Axminster 11 miles. We turn a sharp corner at the foot of a hill. He points at the wall and says, drive slowly. So even the person who's walking with the writer is reading out what's written on the warning signs in the road. He starts reading everything that's there on the milestones. He just read out something called a traffic or a drive signal that states drive slowly. I see far ahead on the other side of the hedge bordering the high road a small notice board. He sees it too. Obviously, the writer and his companion are walking together and they are looking at a lot of notice board. But why to read each one of them? The writer is already bored because his companion is constantly reading out everything that he sees. The companion has looked at the notice board and he keeps looking at it, and finally he reads that out as well, and in due course trespassers, he says, will be prosecuted. So again, he is reading out everything that he sees. According to the writer, his companion is a mental wreck. What is a wreck? The destruction of something. Usually wreck is a word used for ship. We say shipwreck, right? But according to the writer, his companion had a mental wreck because, first of all, we already saw how he was talking about people. He was praising and criticizing as they walked along. And finally, he started reading inscriptions. He started reading everything that he saw. According to the writer, this is really not a fruitful activity. Luncheon at the A's, however, salves him and floats him in full sail. What is a luncheon? A formal lunch that was organized at some friend's place. Now the fact that the writer and his companion are gonna have lunch makes the writer's companion very happy. The fact that the companion is gonna have lunch sets him in full spirits. He is fully energetic. Behold him once more, the life and soul of the party, which means as soon as they are at the venue where the lunch is gonna happen, he becomes the apple of an eye. he becomes energetic, he becomes talkative. And the same companion who was reading inscriptions and talking about people, he becomes the soul of the party. Surely he will never, after the bitter lesson of this morning, go out for another walk. Now, which is the bitter lesson that the writer is referring to here? We know that the writer, because he was insisted to go out for a walk with his companion, he came out for a walk, but after that, when the companion talked about people and read out everything that he saw, was not really accepted by the writer well, and he didn't respond well. So his companion did not feel better, and this was the bitter lesson. He had his own selfish motives. On one side, he wants to go out for a walk, and on the other side, he wants to participate in a lunch party. So the response that the writer gave to his reactions talking about people and reading out everything were not really well, were really dull and boring. So that was a lesson that the writer gave to his companion, and this was a bitter lesson. An hour later, I see him striding forth with a new companion. So now he has left the writer behind because he didn't feel good about it. So he left the writer somewhere, and now he has started walking with a new person, new friend. I watch him out of sight. The writer observes the same companion walking with a different friend, and the writer says, I know what he's saying. He's saying that I am rather a dull man to go a walk with. He will presently add that I am one of the dullest men he ever wanted to walk with, ever went a walk with. Then he will devote himself to reading out inscriptions. So, what happened here? A companion asked the writer to come out for a walk. He started his blabbering. The writer did not like it. The writer gave dull responses. Now there's a lunch party. In the lunch party, he is enjoying himself like anything. And then, because the writer was dull, he chose another friend to talk to. Then he left the writer behind. The writer is observing two of them walk away and talk about unnecessary things, and the writer predicts what that person would be talking about. The writer knows that the person will be talking about the writer who did not respond well to what he was saying when he was walking with him. How come this immediate deterioration in those who walking for walking's sake? Why does the writer tag this as deterioration? Deterioration because the person who starts walking doesn't talk sense. The person who is walking used to talk about great things, great knowledge and great topics, but as soon as he starts walking, there is some sort of deterioration in his talk, and therefore the writer questions, how come this immediate deterioration? What happens? Just what happens? I take it that not by his reasoning faculty is the man urged to this enterprise. He is urged evidently by something in him that transcends reason, by his soul, I presume. So, let's understand this line. The writer states that there is not his mental powers or his physical powers which urge him to deteriorate and urge him to talk nonsense. The writer feels that there is something going on inside him which is above reasoning, above logic, that deteriorates his mental capacity. So now the writer is trying to explain what happens when the person starts walking. Yes, it must be the soul that raps out the quick march to the body. Halt, stand at ease, interposes the brain. And to what destination? It suavely asks the soul. And on what errand are you sending the body? On no errand whatsoever, the soul makes the answer, and to no destination at all. So in a very hilarious way, the writer is trying to explain the communication that happens between our soul and the brain. When you decide to go out for a walk all of a sudden without a destination in mind, the brain is asking the soul, on what destination are we going? And what are we gonna do? What is the agenda? The brain is asking the soul, Why are you sending the physical body? Where are you sending? For what work? The soul answers, there's no work, just like that. It is like you to be always on the lookout for some subtle ulterior motive. I missed out writing the meaning of ulterior. You might want to write it down. Ulterior is existing beyond what is obvious or admitted. Or you can say intentionally hidden. So here the writer is telling us that the soul is something that transcends reason and it issues a command, quick march to the body. But the brain questions the soul's intentions, the soul's desire, and wants to know where actually he, or we can say it, is sending the body. Where is the soul sending the body? The soul answers, to no destination. We do not have a destination. Our brain wants a motive. The body is going out because the mere fact of its doing so is a sure indication of nobility, probity, and rugged grandeur character. Why does the body get ready to walk? According to the writer, the body gets ready because the body knows that what it's gonna do is noble and impressive. Very well, Vagula, have your own Vagula, but I flatly refuse to be mixed up in this tomfoolery. I shall go to sleep till it's over. Now these words, Vagula and Vagula, is related to a tale of Emperor Hadrian's farewell to life, where in the tale the words like animula, vagula, blandula were used, and all these words indicate soul. So in this essay as well, vagula means soul. So the brain tells the soul, okay soul, you can find your own way, but I will not be fooled by you. I will go to sleep. The brain tells the soul. The brain tells the soul that you do whatever you want, I'll go to sleep, and when this activity is over, I will again wake up. The brain then wraps itself in its own convolutions and falls into a dreamless slumber from which nothing can rouse it till the body has been safely deposited indoors again, which means the brain argued with the soul and eventually goes into sleep mode, just like our laptops do, right? And the brain has decided to start functioning only when the body comes back inside the room and it is still motionless, seated in a nice room. In short, when the body is brought indoors again from walking, the brain will start to work. Even if you go to some definite place for some definite purpose, the brain would rather you took a vehicle, but it does not make a point of this. It will serve you well enough unless you are going for a walk. The writer states that if we are going to a definite place, we have a place in mind and we have to reach that place for some definite goal, for some definite purpose. The brain would want us to take a vehicle and reach it. The brain will not create conflicts with the soul. It will serve you very well unless you're going for a walk without any reason. If you're going for a walk without any reason, the brain and soul might create conflict and the brain goes to sleep. Now, as we know, these are the thoughts of the author. It won't, while your legs are vying with each other, do any deep thinking for you, nor even any close thinking, but it will do any number of small odd jobs for you unwillingly, provided that your legs also are making themselves useful, not merely bandying you about to gratify the pride of the soul. Let's understand this sentence. It won't do any deep thinking for you. It means who? The brain, human brain will not do any deep thinking for you. When you are out for a walk without any definite purpose or a place, but it will do small odd jobs for you willingly. It means who again? The human brain will do small odd jobs for you willingly, provided that you have a place in your mind. You're not just merely going out without a reason. So let's make it easier. The brain will do number of small odd jobs, provided that the legs are not just gratifying the soul. In short, if there is a place and purpose where you are going, the brain doesn't create conflict. But if there's no place, no purpose, the brain is in conflict with the soul, and when you go out for a walk without a reason, the brain might just stop thinking. Such as it is, the essay was composed in the course of walk this morning. Now this is just the comment on why the writer wrote this essay. I'm not one of those extremists who must have a vehicle to every destination. I never go out of my way, as it were, to avoid exercise. Now the writer Max Beerbohm is trying to clarify something. He's telling us, the readers, that he's not a person who doesn't walk because he wants to avoid exercises. Or he's not also a person who needs a vehicle to every destination. I take it as it comes and take it in good part. So, whichever the situation is, the writer follows exactly that. The writer tries to avoid walking without a reason, but yes, if it's very necessary, the writer partakes in it. That valetudinarians are always chattering about it. You know, the people who are into healthy living and workout, so they are called valetudinarians, a person who is unduly anxious about their health, who are always talking about the habit of walking and indulging in it to excess is no reason for despising it. So the writer is again clarifying. He's telling us that he doesn't hate the habit of walking just because of few anxious people who are concerned about their health all the time. I am inclined to think that in moderation it is rather good for one physically. So now the writer is putting his viewpoint. If you do it in moderation, if you walk in moderation, say thrice a week for 30 minutes, it is good for you. But pending a time when no people wish me to go and see them, and I have no wish to go and see anyone, and there is nothing whatever for me to do off my own premises, I never will go out for a walk. The last sentence is important. It shows what the writer is interested in. So if there's a person who wants the writer to come out of his house and meet them, the writer will not go out for a walk. The second half of the sentence, nothing whatever for me to do off my own premises, which means if the writer has no work at all outside his premises, means outside his house or building, wherever he is. Even if the writer has nothing at all to do, he will never go out for a walk just like that. So he sums up this essay by telling us that the writer Max Beerbohm will never go out for a walk without a reason and would rather take a vehicle whenever it is there right in front of him. So friends, I hope you understood this essay. Now let me tell you that this is just the writer's notion about the habit of walking. You and I both know the benefits of walking. What are the benefits of walking? It burns calories, it strengthens the heart, it can help lower your blood sugar, it eases joint pain, it boosts immune function, it boosts your energy, it improves your mood, it extends your life, it tones your legs, and actually, opposite of what the writer is saying, walking may help clear your head and help you think creatively. But this essay is in your syllabus and we have to project the writer's thoughts on the examination paper. So we have to understand what Max Beerbohm thinks about walking. According to the writer, walking in moderation is good, but as far as possible, he himself never goes out for a walk. I hope you've understood this essay. If not, do let me know in the comment section and I will be very happy to answer your queries. I thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.